This video covers Trig P.3 Part 2. The last topic we're going to talk about in this section of notes is circles. We're going to do two things. We're going to write equations for a circle, and then we're going to actually graph circles. So first thing we need to know is what is the standard form of an equation for a circle. So let me write that down here. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And whenever you are writing the equation for a circle, there's really two things that you need. You need to know the hk value, and the hk stands for the center. And you need to know the r value, and the r value stands for the radius. So whenever you're writing an equation, you're just going to replace the h and the k with numbers, and then same thing for the r. You're going to replace it with its actual length, and then you can write your equation. The y's and the x's and the y's, they will stay in the formula as x's and y's. Okay, so you don't put numbers in for that. So if I want you to write an equation for a circle that has these two endpoints as the diameter, I like to keep myself organized by writing over here what I need. I need to know the center, the hk, and I need to know the radius. And once I have those two things, then I can just go up and replace those values in my equation. So let me just give you a quick sketch of this so I think you can visualize what it is that we're looking at. So 4, 1 is right here, and -4, -1 is here. And so this is the endpoints of the diameter. So you have a diameter that looks like that, and you have a circle then that contains that diameter. And I'm asking you to find the equation for this circle here. And again, I'm just going to change the color here so it sticks out a little bit better. This was 4, 1, and this was -4, -1. So in order for me to be able to write this equation, I need to know the center and I need to know the radius. And the only way that I can find the center is if I actually knew the halfway point or the midpoint of the diameter. The midpoint of the diameter, this point right here, should be the center. I can't assume it's 0, 0. I need to show that it actually is 0, 0. So for the center, I'm actually going to use the midpoint formula. So find the midpoint of this line. So take the x values and add them up, -4 and 4, and divide them in half, you get 0. Take the y values, -1 and +1, add them up and divide it in half, and you also get 0. 0 over 2 is 0. So I've shown then that the center is 0, 0. To be able to find the radius, what I know now that if the center is 0, 0, then the distance for the radius would be from the center to here. So I need to know what that distance is. So to be able to find the radius, I use the distance formula. Now it's important that you understand when you're using the distance formula, since you're trying to find the radius, you go from the center out to the edge of the circle. So you have to use 0, 0 and 4, 1. What a lot of students will do is they'll find the distance of the diameter, and then they'll say that that's the radius. They'll use -4, -1, and 4, 1. If you find this entire distance here, then you'd have to cut that in half to find the radius. So I don't recommend that you don't do that. I recommend that you just find from 0, 0 to 4, 1. So using the distance formula, we can say the distance would be equal to the x values subtracted from each other. So 0 and 4, subtract those, square that, and then add to that 0 minus 1 squared. -4 squared is 16. -1 squared is 1. So I would get then the distance to be the square root of 17. Now remember, that's really my radius. The square root of 17 is the radius from here to here. That is my r value. But the question says to write the equation. So go back and plug that information in up here. X minus the h value is 0 squared plus y minus the k value of 0 also squared equals the square root of 17 r squared. Now we can clean this up a little bit because I don't really need to say x minus 0 squared. X minus 0 squared is the same as x squared. And y minus 0 squared is the same as y squared. And the square root of 17 squared, these would just cancel each other out and leave me with 17. So that's my actual answer. The equation for this circle would be x squared plus y squared equals 17. Now for this next example, instead of having you write the equation of the circle, I'm going to give you the equation, I'm going to ask you to graph it. And so for the two pieces of information that you need to graph it are the two pieces of information that you need to actually write the equation. You need the center, and you need the radius. Now recognize that that information is given to you. So I'm going to take the time to write the generic form above this. And I'm doing that on purpose so that you can see how I can get my values that I'm going to get. So if I ask you to find the h value, that's what I'm subtracting from x. And I'm not subtracting anything from x, so I know that has to be 0. If I ask you to find the k value, notice that that lines up with this 1 here. So I'm going to write the k as a 1, not a negative 1, because this minus right here is part of the formula. Okay? If this said y plus 1 quantity squared, if it said y plus 1, then I would write this as a minus 1. Okay, but my problem doesn't say that, so let me get that off of there. But because there's a minus here, we take the opposite sign of that. Had it been a plus 1, then we put a minus 1 down here. And then finally, to find the r value, I know right now that r squared is equal to 1, so I can solve that equation for r by taking the square root. So I actually know that the r value is also 1. And now to be able to plot this, or to sketch this circle, I plot the center first. So I go over 0 and up 1, which would be right here. And then I create my radius by saying go left and right 1, and go up and down 1, and that's going to give me then this distance is 1, this distance is 1. That gives me 4 different places where I'm drawing my radius of 1, and I can just connect those dots to make my circle. And so this circle should actually look like that. So whether I'm writing the equation for a circle or I'm actually plotting the sketching the graph, I always need to know the center and the radius. And I can either write the equation if I need to, or I can actually plot it.